Hello, and welcome back to the 5V podcast. We're delighted to have you. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Robbrecht, who is the head of Internet Things and API integration from AMIS Conclusion. Robbrecht, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No, that's
It's nice,
absolutely fine.
nice being here.
We're looking forward to having you. So, without further ado, let's jump straight in it, right? Let's introduce yourself to everybody. So, if you could just give us a little bit of a background on yourself, Robbrecht, how you got into the wonderful world of technology and where Amis Conclusion came from.
Yeah, I've been working in technology for more than 20 years, always with newest technology. And the last 5 years, we've been focusing with AMIS Conclusion on the Internet of Things, developing it from the perspective of IT. So most IT platforms are being developed from the OT perspective, operational technology perspective. We've been doing this from an IT perspective since we're, as AMIS Conclusion is already working in integration in complicated systems for the past 20 years. So for us, it's just an addition to integrating systems, and then again, the data is coming from a sensor instead of another system.
Perfect. And as a brief introduction to where you came from, so Amis Conclusion, you give us a little bit of a background about that. So let's deep dive into that. So what is Amis Conclusion? What's your mission?
Yeah,
That sounds
our mission is to make more information, more value from data in a more generic sense, and we do that by utilizing this or capabilities to enterprise companies who realize that data is very important for them, and they want to use this data in a reliable and trustworthy way, of course with security and scalability topics as well. And AMIS Conclusion is a Dutch-based consulting firm, a part of a larger company called Conclusion, and we work for critical organizations in the Netherlands, and that means we work for utility companies, for the Dutch railways, for pension funds, and for companies in the food and feed sector.
perfect. I mean, it all sounds like it's going well. I'm interested, and I've got a question for you. I mean, we face a lot of challenges in life about everything. One of my questions to you and to Amis Conclusion is, what are the challenges of scaling an IoT solution?
The challenges of scaling an IoT solution is making sure that you can handle this explosive load of data and of data processing without the corresponding explosion in consumption cost of cloud or data transport. So every time we take a next step in scaling a solution, we have to assess what's the new features we can use to keep cost in control and also to be able to make the system robust and resilient for outage somewhere in the system whenever they happen. So that's the next level actually, and you see that it's often quite difficult to bridge the gap from linking a couple of devices or 1,000 devices to scaling it up to 10 or 50,000 devices. That's a whole other board game. You can't provision your devices manually anymore. You have to automate this. You can't monitor them by just looking at the dashboard. You have to automate monitoring. You have to automate security. So there's all sorts of automation which takes place when you scale this to this level.
Yeah, superb. And it sounds like you're overcoming those. So moving on, obviously, you may have heard the news that today the UK have got a new prime minister in place. So I think what I'm about to ask is about to become a bit of a prominent conversation in the UK, and it's all about energy. I know from the conversations we've had, the energy sector is quite big for what you guys are up to. So what is the current situation with the energy industry for Amis Conclusion and yourself at the moment?
We are working for several energy companies in the Netherlands, and we are helping these companies in actually using data to enable the energy transition from a more carbon-based fuel towards sustainable fuel and sustainable energy. The current energy crisis is just accelerating or emphasizing this issue even more. But I think that the current crisis is going so fast that you can't catch up with technology. So this is something probably we have to sit out and brace ourselves for the current couple of months. But I think it will help accelerating the usage of battery, of solar, of wind, of alternative sources like carbon, like hydrogen, for example, and also accelerate the use of electrical vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is, if you're an investor, there's only one place to put your money right now, right? That's in other uses of source or electronic vehicles. I mean, EV electronic vehicles is massive and it's ever growing. I know that there's goals, especially in the UK, to have everybody in an electric vehicle by 2033, I think it is, which is crazy. Going back to kind of where we both are at the moment in the industry, obviously you're ahead of the Internet of Things. I do a lot of work around the IoT. So, what has the IoT enabled in the energy industry at the moment, Robbrecht?
The current IoT is enabling in the energy industry is something different than they're already doing for the past 20 years. Because for the as long as there are meters connected in this world, the energy companies are reading meters and using them for billing. Since the cost for a sensor is dropping rapidly, and also the cost for data transport is dropping rapidly, and also the cost for data processing is becoming cheaper and cheaper, you're able to do these measurements more frequent and with a more intensity, this more deeper into your whole network. That means that you can use this data not only for billing your customers, but also to optimize the whole energy network and also to influence the network when you see that certain steering measurements will increase the usage of sustainable energy or increase the revenue of the whole network. And that's only possible when you are able to do a massive number of measurements and also be able to increase the frequency of measurements to, in our case, for example, to almost every minute.
Yeah.
Instead of every day, for example.
Yeah, and you've mentioned both words a couple of times in terms of profitability and scalability and that sort of stuff. I know there's a quote that goes out there, which is a lot of people that strongly believe there is a happy cohesion or a happy marriage, some people say, between sustainability and profitability. Do you think there's anything else that we can do to increase the efficiency between sustainability and capitalise on traditional energy?
I think, but I don't know if that's the answer of your question, is that as the technology enthusiasts and people who are interested in integrating systems, I think we can work on making the systems who produce data from an energy network and who consume energy make the data transfer between these systems more transparent.
Yeah.
So at the moment, the biggest challenge is transforming data from system A to system B, while the new future you need to be able to make data transport and messaging transport between several modalities of energy. So in the traditional way, you have a gas-powered energy plant who produces power. It's being transported to individual homes and companies, and that's it. Now there's a lot of components in this whole network available to steer this network, to store energy a little bit in between, for example, in batteries or to transfer electrical power to heat or to other energy farms. And you need to be able to communicate between all these different sources of energy, between wind, solar, battery, electric vehicles, heat pumps in homes, and also big energy consuming appliances in companies, to be able to steer the network in more detail and to influence the network and to be able to make it more sustainable in general.
Yeah, perfect. I think you summed it up quite nicely at the start. I think it's just about what we're facing at the moment. It's just about riding it out, I think was the terms you used for a couple of months. I know there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. For instance, I know a company has just been given quite a lot of funding that could change the whole electronic vehicle market, where they can reduce battery charging from like hours down to minutes, like 30 minutes for a whole charge. I mean, if that comes about and that is actually something that can be done, the whole energy sector changes straight away anyway. So let's talk about other exciting news. Let's talk about some trends, shall we? So
Okay.
I know that you're involved in a lot of different things. Some of the conversations we've had, we just keep talking because there are trends. I know digital twin is a big thing for you, Robbrecht. So what are your thoughts and experience around digital twin?
And I think digital twin can be valuable, especially when you have a large network and with a lot of components which influence each other. But on the other hand, you also see a digital twin as a kind of marketing term. So whenever you have a physical plant displayed in a 3D model, you can call it a digital twin, and then it makes sure that you're doing the latest, the greatest, and hippest things. And I think people need to realize that it costs a lot of time and effort to realize a real digital twin, and to make sure that you are really linked to specific use cases. And as I read in an article last week somewhere, I posted on LinkedIn, you see that 70% of industrial companies are implementing or already have implemented the digital twin, but also a majority of them are still searching for a practical use case. So that's quite surprising for me, because why would you invest in something without even knowing that there's a practical application?
I know. Some people just kind of jump on the bandwagon, right? And it's like everyone's talking about it, so we have to do it. Based on your experience, when do you see digital twin being successful? But on the flip side of that coin, when is digital twin not actually needed?
When it's not needed, if when you're using it as a kind of marketing tool to show that you can show the 3D model with your data. I think in most cases, and we also see that in my current project, I think still there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. And I think almost 70% of the cases we are implementing is just implementing simplified logic. Not even machine learning or algorithm, but just a discrete logic. And I think for 20-30% of the cases, you can apply a digital twin to see a whole network in total, and for example, simulate what's happening when there's some outage, when you increase the throughput in a network, when you change something in sourcing or in supply or demand. So in the real usage of digital twin is to be able to have a fixed model of the infrastructure, be able to link it to real-time data, which is happening right now in this whole infrastructure with all these components, and then being able to simulate something, what will happen if I turn off this valve, what happens when this pump breaks down, what happens when this appliance will not work, and then how many people are affected, or what will this do to my overall level of service.
And that's when I see the best use cases, and I'm sure you have many a times. If it's implemented correctly and in the right ways, it can be so handy. I do want to come back to something you mentioned just a second ago, but I am going to digress slightly because something's just popped into my head that I know that you've spoken about a couple of times, or we've briefly spoken about it, and that's Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0. Where do you see us at the moment? Where do you see the transition in that? And then I'll come back to something else you touched on. So,
I think the majority of the work and the majority of the advantages are still being reaped from the Industry 4.0 by actually opening up systems and being able to measure data and see what's really happening. The next step, using machine learning algorithms, artificial intelligence, that will be built on having actual high quality data. So jumping directly into something like an asset brain, for example, so make every asset smart and letting it tell to the maintenance crew what's happening when they need maintenance and what's the quality of service, needs to be built upon real solid high quality interchangeable data.
Mm.
I think that's what we will be working on for the next couple of years. Before, of course, there are already usages of machine learning and computer vision, for example, is something which I think will do a lot in very boring tasks, which are currently done by humans.
Yeah.
But the real step towards real machine or asset intelligence, I think that will still take a little bit of time.
Perfect. I'm glad you finished with that bit because that's going to bring me back in. I do this a lot. I get frowned upon at home or whenever I'm doing. If I think of something, I need to ask it. Otherwise, I think,
Okay.
I'll go back to that, and then I never actually go back to that. It's a terrible
All right.
memory. But you finished at a good point because I wanted to come back to the machine learning that you were talking about, machine learning and AI. So, what are the best applications of that, and what direction do you see machine learning and AI going? Because it seems to be one of the fastest growing topics everywhere, basically.
But the application I see is at the moment automating a lot of quite tedious and repetitive tasks which are still being done by humans, like for what they mentioned right now, video inspections, if certain installations are being done correctly, which are still being watched by humans. There are examples of people who are in full-time jobs just watching video of train tracks, for example, or
Yeah.
of road signs. There's a lot of automation in that area, and I think that will increase the quality, but also increase the employer health and employer joy.
Yeah.
And they can emphasize on the anomalies in this area. So there are probably going to be some positive types where a reparation is needed in a road or in a rail track. And there are some false positives, and you need to assess if these are really cases or not, and you have to assess those. And you can focus on the future planning instead of just doing the current work.
Yeah. Perfect.
And it means that still even jobs where you need a high level of education can probably also be automated by machine learning, especially when it's around testing, about assessing if something is done correctly. That's I think that's going to be disappeared or replaced by machine learning or computer vision.
Yeah, I'm going to read you a quote because I would like to come in with a lot of research. I'm going to read you a quote that I've seen, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on it. So a study by Oxford University and Yale University indicated that AI will outperform humans in many ways and will automate all human jobs in the next 120 years. So they're anticipating by 2024, for instance, AI will be better than humans at translation. They'll write best-selling books by 2049 and will perform surgeries in 2053. Do you agree? Do you see that the direction that we're going in?
Yeah, then we can take a pension early.
Can't we all? I wonder if they'll be able to host podcasts. And then we can all do it.
You can also replace your with the drone. I think that it will be partly true.
Yeah.
I think a lot of jobs will be replaced by some kind of automation or machine learning or algorithms. And I'm still wondering if you can do something in the field of creativity. But also the same with the DALL-E 5, I think that's called.
Yeah.
There's also a great example where you can instruct a computer just to generate a picture based on some text, and it will create a real image based upon your instructions. But the actual creativity is inventing the idea that you want to see astronaut on a pony on the moon.
Yeah.
And that's not something a computer can invent, I think.
Yeah. That's very true. So, I mean, look, before we wrap up, a couple of the key takeaways here is excitement. I think is probably one way that we can wrap this up in terms of even the energy sector at the moment, which a lot of people are worried about. A lot of people are just seeing the short-term pain that we're going to be in. I think you hit the nail on the head, Robbrecht. I think it is about biding your time, but the direction that whole sector is going um, is exciting. Again, I think things like digital twin, if they're used in the right way, and there's plenty of other technologies out there, but I think digital twin and machine learning that we've touched on are two of the main things. Is there anything else that, even around those core subjects, or any other technologies that you might be working on, or you might be seeing that you're quite excited about, or anything else you want to add on what AMIS Conclusion are doing at the moment?
I think I see a tendency towards a more plug-and-play IoT solutions. I think in the past 5 years it was in the beginning very complicated to connect devices towards actually communication modules, and then having the data sent out to the cloud and being able to use it. At the moment, you see more and more devices which are certified and which are being actually working as a kind of plug-and-play IoT. So you just connect them to a communication module, and it's being discovered as my device, and then it's sending data. So that makes it a lot more easier. And I think despite all the trendy innovations, there's so much low-hanging fruit and use cases that I think we can also focus on those parts where you can see that with very simple solutions, you can just see what's happening. To give you an example, we just installed temperature sensors in our office, and that was in the winter. And we soon discovered that in some rooms the thermostat was deliberately set to a very high level, and you can reduce some energy usage in those rooms by just measuring them. And nobody's going to check 20 rooms if the thermostat is set correctly. But if you measure every half hour, you can have a very solid plan is to reduce energy usage and keep the comfort level according to what your employees want.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you're saying is bang on. One thing that came into my head then, and I hear it quite a lot, is interoperability. What do you think that will ever happen? I mean, my immediate thing is there's a lot of big players out there in the field. I see, for instance, if we talk about cloud, you've got the obvious, you've got the Amazons, you've got the Apples, all that sort of stuff. Do you ever think that they will be friendly enough towards each other to link together, and we'll all be able to use everything as a whole?
Now I see more and more the devices and gateways which are operating based on an IP number and not based upon a local network or something. So that means that you can use them with an API. They're still very proprietary protocols now and then, but every next generation is becoming better and better. And probably it would be an illusion to say there would be one kind of Internet of Things communication protocol everywhere, but there probably will be some kind of two or three, so like the Google and the Apple IoT protocol.
Yeah.
And that will be sufficient if you say, well, you work in this industry and we're using this standard. And you see that several companies are working together, especially in the field of digital twin, for example. Large companies, OEM vendors, but also companies like Microsoft and Amazon together to make a standard. And it won't be implemented directly, but every company is committing to implementing the standard in the near future.
Yeah.
And that makes it very easy to communicate with each other and makes our work, on one hand, less work for us. On the other hand, we can implement use cases quickly.
There's a lot of direction in this conversation for us, either retiring or just giving up. It's exciting. Again, it's just something else that we, considering where we've come in recent years to where we are now, there's still so much to look forward to, which is great. Look, thank you for all of that. I have pre-warned you. We do like to do at the end a quick fire questions. There isn't many. Hopefully they'll be quite straightforward. So you're not timed, don't worry. So although it says quick fire, you're not under pressure. The first one is just your favorite technology that you either own or that you've seen.
What I've the favorite technology is still my Bose audio device, because it only has just a volume button. So every complicated stuff is hidden to perfect audio, it's probably tuned automatically, and it doesn't show me all the equalizers and all the other stuff I liked when I was 16. Now I've just got an audio device with just a volume button and a on and off button, and that's it.
Yeah, it's
And I
clever,
think
isn't it?
technology needs to be like that, like less complicated for the end users and high quality.
Yeah, simplified. Great. Next question is your biggest achievement in your career.
Um, I'm still proud that I managed to create a community of almost 10 companies like AMIS Conclusion who are able to collaborate together in creating training, education, but also partner management and even conferences. I created that, I think, 8 or 9 years ago. And it's still running, and I resigned as the head, so it's still running like an open source community without any mutual contracts or other kind of legal stuff, but it's just a group of technology enthusiasts making sure that technology is going to work better.
Perfect. Amazing. You should be proud of that. Well done.
Yeah.
Well, not last one, sorry, another one. Describe your business in 3 words.
That's the Dutch word, but I think it's artisanship. Uh, so it's professional and fun.
Brilliant. We've had this conversation before. You can keep it brief, I promise. Thoughts on the metaverse?
Um, it's I like it, but it's still it's like a solution looking for a problem. That's my opinion. And it's a very sexy solution, so that makes it very appealing.
Yeah.
And I think some areas it it helps doing short meetings together and to be able to see each other. I did some conferences in the Metaverse solution of Microsoft, and that's really uh, uh, it is a good setup. But I can't spend there a whole day. It's good for a conference of 2 hours, and then I'm fed up with chat and the very uh, comic-like figures, and then I want
Yeah.
to go back to the real world.
Yeah.
But I think it can be very helpful, but I don't think people will spend there the whole day in the metaverse.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, some people probably that might spend the whole day in it will be quite disappointed when they come back to reality. So, but that's a whole different worry. 3 more. One
Yeah,
word answer for this one. Are you Apple or Android?
Apple.
Thought as much. Your biggest inspiration?
Um, and
Always gets people thinking that one.
well, my biggest inspiration was actually my first boss, who were allowed me to do very big projects, even though I was very inexperienced. And as soon as I made my first error, um, he just stood up for me and said, "Well, this is I'm responsible for you, so I'll call the customer and you can fix it." So that was my first learning, is to be able to stand for your team and give them freedom. And if they make an error, then you catch the discussions with your customer, sorry.
Yeah.
But you can leave your team fixing it, because that's the biggest learning for me, that when I make an error, and I will never make that error again.
Yeah, perfect. And the final question, if you were to pick one word to summarize the technology landscape this year, what would you pick? One word. Good luck.
Moving.
What was
Moving.
that? Moving. Yeah, great choice. I like that.
In flux. Okay.
Well. We've reached the end. Robbrecht, thank you. It's been fun. It's been informative. That's exactly what we want to try and build. If you can just let the viewers know of your socials, AMIS Conclusion socials or websites, where can they find you?
I think it will be mentioned somewhere in the comments of this video. And there's several. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can visit our website, which is also a part in English. And we have some Twitter accounts you can follow where we post either own promotion, but also insights of the industry.
Again, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we can connect again soon. And yeah, the people, hopefully if they're watching, they liked it enough to subscribe. Everybody, please.
Right.
And that's a wrap. Exactly.
All right.
That. Robbrecht, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Okay, it was a pleasure being here.